SeatGeek is the easiest way to find the best deals on tickets to pretty much any live event. Concerts, sports, theater, comedy, whatever you want. Download the SeatGeek app today and enter promo code SEATS to save $20 on your first purchase.
Welcome back to the SportsBeat KC podcast. This is Jesse Newell, KUB reporter for the Kansas City Star. I'm joined once again this week from his vehicle by CJ Moore of the Athletic and Bleacher Report. CJ, how you doing this week?
Good. Well, actually, I'll be honest. Not good today, man. Not good today.
Why not good today?
I'm on my way back from Springfield, which was great. Doing a story on Alize Johnson, NBA prospect that plays for Missouri State. Great kid, great interview. Everything went awesome there. But I wake up this morning and I have a text from my wife that says, something's up with the plumbing. Call me when you wake up. So that sucks. It is a terrible way to wake up, see that message. And then get on my way back today and get about 30 minutes down the road, get a call from the Missouri State SID. I'd forgotten my bag there, so that added an hour onto my drive, turn around to go back and get that. So it's been kind of a crappy day. Got the plumber coming tomorrow to see why we have backup in our house. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to give too many nasty details, but you can imagine plumbing not fun.
I think, CJ, you couldn't have described better what it's like to be a man in your 30s than your day, what it is today.
Right.
Like, right? I mean, you start forgetting things, you lose your memory, you have plumbing
And your
problems.
plumbing goes out.
Yeah, and you have to, be a responsible adult and call people about it. You basically described living life in your 30s in one day.
Yeah. Home ownership sucks. If you're 25 and listening to this, just don't become an adult. Don't do it.
Don't grow up. Go the Peter Pan route.
Don't grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway.
even though we're both getting older, CJ, the guys at KU in college, they remain the same age, and they are still playing basketball at a very high level. A huge week for the Jayhawks, including a victory over West Virginia, coming back from a 16-point deficit on Monday. I guess I'll just open the floor for you to start talking about what you saw from KU in that West Virginia game, and I guess what you think it means for the Jayhawks moving forward.
Yeah, they don't need to call the plumber to fix things right now. And a couple of weeks ago, it looked like there were some issues, right? But
it was kind of stinky,
Yeah, it's amazing what how the conversation is probably changed from last time we did a podcast, and definitely probably 2 times ago we did a podcast. It was kind of like, is this the year? Yada yada yada. And while I still think there's questions with this team, and I don't know that everything's rosy yet, they're in such a good place right now. It's such a better place than they were just a week ago, because to go on the road and get that win at West Virginia, and then to, kind of sneak away with the win they had against K-State, and now everybody else loses. Now they're a game up on the league. I mean, it's just amazing where they are. And I thought, the biggest takeaway for me from that West Virginia game was just, I was at the game. What game was it? I was there. Was it the Texas Tech game where Bill Self said it was the softest team he's ever coached?
Yeah.
Or was that the Arizona State game?
It was one of those two. I think it was Texas Tech. They call it like it is, quote. Yeah.
Yeah. I was there for both those losses. And, he was on to something there. Like, he wasn't just saying it to – I'm sure he was saying it to motivate his team, but, there were reasons from what he was seeing to say that. And for them to now have one of these wins like they had on Monday, where it was just one of those wins that Bill Self likes, where you don't play well, but you find a way. And, I thought that they showed a lot of toughness and to have the issues they had early on, handling the pressure.
Yep.
I thought the first half of that game, they didn't run any they could barely run any offense. They weren't getting what they wanted. And second half, I thought was really telling. The first 2 possessions, they come out and they actually missed the shots, but they ran good offense and got good shots. And that was to me, I was like, okay, this might turn a little bit, just because they're finding a way to get what they want. And if they can make shots, then this game could turn. And, they started to make shots. V made a couple big, huge ones. And the defense that he played I thought was, he's been what I had this in my story last week on him, that he's maybe been their most consistent perimeter defender. And I thought he played excellent defense throughout that game. And last year we had the conversation with like Svi really, really struggled defensively. And, that was a big concern. I think that was a concern with him coming into this year, but I think he's been a much better defender and stepped up that game. And then I think we need to talk more about Udoka Azubuike, because the dude's shooting almost 80% from the field in Big 12 play and for the season. And in that game, they were plus 22 with him on the floor. And I think, it speaks to two things, how awesome he's been lately, and then also, how much they need his size, because they get so small when he's not out there. And hopefully for them, Silvio De Sosa will help with that a little bit. And I thought he had some good moments in that game. So that's kind of my stream of consciousness thoughts from just that game and where they are right now. Where are you at, Jesse?
Yeah, a lot of those same things. Here, I've got a crazy stat for Udoka. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, throw it at me.
Okay, so everybody basically by now knows that Udoka leads the nation in field goal percentage. And if you look even more specifically, he leads the nation in effective field goal percentage. So if you give even extra credit for 3-pointers and giving them,
because he shoots a ton of them.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that can compare him.
No, he doesn't even get the credit for that. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. I mean,
he shouldn't be leading the country in effective field goal percentage.
If there's a Steph Curry out there shooting 50% from three, then they should be. We should talk about him with Udoka Azubuike, because that's getting as many points or creating as many points as Udoka is by making twos. So it's not really a surprise. Okay, Udoka's leading in field goal percentage, effective field goal percentage. That's what you would probably expect based on watching him. Now, do you know what true shooting percentage is, CJ?
Yeah, it factors in free throw percentage, which would hurt him, but he still leads in that too, right?
Yeah. So that's my stat. Is that okay? Udoka so far this year is 19 for 45. From the free throw line. That's 42%, okay? True shooting percentage takes into account like all your shooting, which means it factors in your free throw shot and how well you shoot from there. Udoka is still number one in the nation in true shooting percentage, factoring in his awful, got to get him out of the game at the end of games, free throw shooting. That to me is that's way more stunning than him being leading, because field goal percentage, he's dunking and he's getting short shots and all those sorts of things. But for him to even count in his free throws and still be number one in the nation, that tells you how far he is ahead of the pack, just to have the kind of season he's having. And like you said, he provides what no one else can provide. I've kind of been writing about this a lot this season, which is that's why they need him to be great on the defensive glass and on the offensive glass and to do some of these Landon Lucas type things, because he's the one big true body that can do it. I mean, he has the physicality, the big body, the athleticism to rebound, whereas it doesn't matter how much Svi Mikhailuk wants it. I mean, I guess it does a little bit because he got some big boy rebounds, if you will, against West Virginia, but for the most part, it's really difficult for Malik Newman or Svi Mikhailuk, even if they want the rebound real bad, to go in there and rebound. For Udoka Azubuike, if he wants it real bad, there's a good chance he's going to get it. So again, it was another example of how important Udoka is, and allows KU to play kind of that multi-pronged attack, which is if teams really, really get out to them on the perimeter, then you have another option to go to, which is throwing it to Udoka inside.
And I'll fill the air here for a second with some Udoka talk. But I want you to look up a stat, Jesse, for me. If you could pull up Synergy and go to his post-ups. You might know this off the top of your head because you're Jesse Newell and you know all the numbers. But I'm curious what his efficiency is on post-ups, because for the listeners, you know, the reason the NBA game is trending away from throwing the ball into the post is because the post-up, what we found over time, and, you know, when basketball people started really looking into the efficiency of different types of shots, is the post-up is usually not a very efficient shot.
It's the least efficient. Yeah, it's the least efficient.
It's the least efficient, yeah. So, you know, but Udoka, I think, is probably done pretty well in those numbers. So I'm curious what they are. And to speak to his defensive, you know, value and what he can bring, I thought that was definitely the best defensive effort from Kansas all season. I mean, they really, really guarded well. And he's a big part of that. And part of the reason they had the plus 22 with him on the floor is they needed him out there. And we talked a few weeks ago about how, you know, I thought he kind of had some problems defensively just because things were in his head. You know, knowing he needed a rebound, knowing he had to be the rim protector. There was a lot on him, and I thought it was getting to him. But I thought he really, really guarded that game and did a good job. And even though he showed some resolve where things were not good for him because he gets that technical, which I can go on a whole rant on. I think technicals like that are just garbage, and there's no room for him in the college game. Like, let a guy stare at a kid for 2 seconds. Like, okay, he just dunked. Like, let the kid show a little bit of emotion. It wasn't like a big time show up. You know, I thought that probably the technical on the K-State kid on Cartier last weekend, that was probably trash too. I don't know what he said, but I'm sure it was terrible too. I think the refs are way too quick to pull the trigger. But anyway, that's a rant I could go on for days. But his defense in that game was awesome, and it shows why he's so important and needs to stay on the floor. And he could have really gone south that game because he had the foul trouble. But I thought, you know, maybe you give Bill Self a little bit of credit to stick with to have a message for him. Hey, we still need you. Don't let this take you down. And for him to come back in the second half and play the way he did, it could have been easy for him to kind of mope and let himself take his head out of the game, let that take him out of the game, but it didn't. And he was a huge part of that comeback.
Your answer is 1.25 points per possession. He ranks in the 97th percentile nationally, which is an excellent mark according to Synergy. So, yes, when he gets the ball inside, it's basically a really efficient play for KU. And, I mean, let's be honest about it. It's an efficient play for KU partly because they have such dangerous outside shooters, which allows him to be freed up on the inside. And when he gets in there, you almost have to single team him just because if you go help with somebody, he can pass it out. I mean, he's not the greatest passer in the world, but if you double team him, he can pass out to a wide open Svi Mikhailuk for an open three. And if I want to go up to that number, I don't think you're doing yourself much favors with that if you want to let Svi Mikhailuk shoot spot up shots all day. Let me look at his number on there. Yeah, 1.13 points per possession for Svi on spot up. So again, it's kind of like the pick your poison when it comes to Kansas basketball, which efficient shot you want to give up. You know, the other thing I want to talk about with Udoka, if I'm being honest with you, that technical foul that he got, Bill Self's probably happy with it, CJ. I mean, if we're being honest, like, what does he wanted?
He's showing emotion.
What has he wanted from Udoka this whole year? He's wanted him to show some emotion. He's wanted him to be a presence and an impact, and wanted him to play. You know, he's talked on Hawk Talk before. He's wanted him to be the kind of rebounder where who was the old guy, the guy back at Oklahoma State, where the coaches put some. They put some elbow pads on him in practice. I'll think of it here in a second.
The Graham brothers?
Yeah, it was one. So it was somebody further back when he was a GA, Byron or Brian, one of those guys. Anyway, I'll find it. But anyway, they used to put elbow pads on him in practice because he would go after rebounds so hard that other guys would stop going after them because they were like, oh, if we go after these rebounds, our guy in practice is going to elbow us in the head. And so they basically put elbow pads on him and be like, okay, guys, you can still go for rebounds. We still want you to go for rebounds, but he is such an intimidating force. He let people know, hey, you know, if you're coming inside or the other team, if you're going after rebound, you're going to look out for elbows because I'm coming after him. For Udoka, that's just never been the mindset. I mean, I remember pulling up plays earlier this year where he closes out on a guy and he starts running to the other end, not even trying to get the defense around because he wants to run out in transition. Like, when he barks at somebody and yells at him and tries to be an intimidator and says, yeah, I dunked on you or whatever the case may be, I mean, that's probably Bill Self like, great. That's exactly what he's wanted out of him, you know, for his year and a half at Kansas. I guess now kind of a full year since he sat out most of last year, but that's probably overall a net positive sign. I know it got him in foul trouble. I know it's not a smart play and he's got to be better with fouls, all those sorts of things. There were some fouls that were better than others, but overall, it's probably a net positive for KU that Udoka showed some emotion, showed some intimidation, got into somebody's head a little bit, and was a little bit of an intimidator, which this team, let's be honest, it does not have much of that.
Yeah, I did a damn good job filling the air, dude. You look up that stat, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. You just kept rambling and rambling. You know, I will say that you're pretty good at that, though.
I'm a good rambler. And that 1-2-5, to come back to that, that's like the most efficient offense in college basketball. I think Duke's probably around there for the season. So basically, when you get the ball to Udoka on a post-up, you're getting the result of like the most efficient offense in college basketball. Like, that's to kind of put that in perspective for people. Like, a guy who gets the number of post-ups that he's gotten, that shouldn't be that kind of efficiency. And like you said, he's in an ideal situation for him because KU shoots the ball so well that it's hard to double him. Like, to give you an example, I was at the Missouri State Valpo game last night, and this Alizé Johnson kid from Missouri State, you know, NBA prospect, really, really good player. Anytime he touched the ball in mid-post area or even near the post, like, he was getting double teams no matter what. And for elite post players, that's the case a lot of times. But, so you do have to give Udoka's teammates some credit because he's in a situation where it's really, really allowing him to flourish. And but, hey, I don't think any of us would have ever predicted this kind of efficiency and production from him. And I'm sure he's surpassing, at least offensively, the expectations Kansas coaches had for him because he's really, really playing well.
Yeah, and let's talk about the defense a little bit. I don't know if it was an epiphany on the coaching staff's part or what it was, but I think you see more of him when he's challenging shots lately. He's going up with both hands rather than swatting with one, and he seemed to have great success there in the last couple weeks with that. I can go through his numbers here, but it wasn't as much against West Virginia. He had 1 block there, but go back 2 games. Iowa State 4 blocks, Kansas State 5 blocks, and if I'm looking at this right, the previous, 6 or 7 games before that, he had 1 block, 2 blocks, 2 blocks, 0, 1, 0, then 4, 5, and 1. I think it's just a little bit of an altering of the style for him. But, yeah, he's been more that rim protector, and that's been kind of one of the under-talked-about storylines is I thought that this defense really could take off with him inside because Landon Lucas was, as Bill Self will tell you, a really smart player, a great position defender, but he was not a rim protector. I thought Udoka could be a true rim protector, and that hadn't happened really until the last 2 games, or the last three games for Kansas. So if he's able to do that a little bit more and provide a little bit more of an inside presence where it comes to rim protection, I mean, we saw what Konate can do to a team mentally, physically, everything when you get those sort of blocks at the rim. If Udoka provides that for KU, then it might be a big lift for this defense, which obviously to this point in the season, that's got to be the biggest concern moving forward.
That's a great observation, Jesse. Just think about it, too. Like, he is a huge freaking dude.
Yeah.
So if you're going to the basket and you see that dude and he's throwing up 2 hands and you got to shoot over the girth and the length, like that. I mean, it's a good idea. And if it was a coaching point from KU, like he's so big and so wide that like I think that's smart. And if you a lot of the blocks that Konate was getting were with 2 hands, weren't they? When he was getting those at the rim, I think he was going up with 2 hands too. So, for a guy, sometimes when guys don't have like super great timing, that's a smart way to go about it. You teach guys to wall, which you wall with 2 hands, but if you can jump and wall at the same time. The other thing with that is officials, if you're not, a lot of times when you go up with 1 hand, you're more likely to swing.
Yes.
And so when you go up with 2, you're less likely to swing. And the way the game is called these days, if you go up vertical with 2 hands and you just straight up, a lot of times they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt on contact. Like if the offense is initiating contact, they're not going to call that. They're going to let you go vertical. That's the rule. So, like you said, his rim protection is very, very important for this team, and their defense is going to be much better because of it. And we had these discussions earlier on. It was disappointing kind of what the rim protection he was giving Kansas. I think that was part of the problem with the defense.
Let's get to some questions. I asked them on Twitter, and we'll get through these. And I know you've got a radio interview coming up here in about 20 minutes, so I want to be sure to get you out with that. But let's go to Jeffrey here. What wins the Big 12 outright this year? 14-4. Any shot 13-5 gets it done in this nutty year. What do you think, CJ?
Yeah, I think 13 wins gets it done. The league's just so good top to bottom. Even the team that wins the league's probably going to have at least like 1 bad L from one of those bottom teams. So I think at least 13 wins gets it. What do you think, Jesse?
Yeah, probably. I mean, the only thing is I think KU might get to 14, and that's just it's weird talking about this Kansas team because I feel like a week or 2 ago I was defending them saying, hey, this is not the worst team in the Bill Self era. I remember writing that and people like being mad about that. And so now KU's played really well in the last couple weeks, and I almost feel like going the other direction and saying, hey, now wait a minute, this Big 12 isn't locked up yet because of the one wild card to me, which is Texas Tech. Texas Tech, the advantage that the Red Raiders have is basically that they got the most important win you can have right now under their belts if you're trying to knock off Kansas, which is they got to win it out of the Fieldhouse. Yeah. And so they're going to be favored against KU in that game coming back up in late February. If Texas Tech wins that game, you are +2 against Kansas head-to-head. And then, the rest of the way you just have to not be terrible. But, again, Texas Tech losing a game at Texas last night, that doesn't help. And that seems to be what always happens with Kansas, is that Kansas gets out to a lead, and then these schools that could pop up and maybe beat them start losing these 50-50 type games that Kansas never seems to lose. So, I agree with you. I think 14-4 probably gets it by itself, and I wouldn't be surprised if KU got there by now, just because if you look at the Jayhawks, they're doing exactly what they've done every other year. I mean, they've won 5 games in the Big 12, and they've won those 5 games by a combined 21 points. And so, it's whenever it comes down crunch time, whenever it seems close and a lucky break here or there could win the game for you, KU wins. And that's just the way it's been. That's the way it has seemed to always be in the past few years, and how it's been the last 14 years, when the streak has gone on. So if you assume that's going to be the case moving forward, then I don't think KU I think KU can get to 14, and that might be another loss at home. It might be another couple losses on the road, but 14 would definitely do it. 13 would probably get you a share. I think that's kind of where I'd be right now.
Here's the deal. I think there are 4 teams legitimately have a chance. And those 4 teams, everybody knows those 4 teams: Texas Tech, West Virginia, Kansas, and Oklahoma. All right. Each of those 4 teams are weaker, way weaker on one end. Like Texas Tech, offensively, they're going to have games where they really struggle. Like they don't have elite offensive talent, but they're an elite defensive team.
Yes.
Okay? So they're going to lose some games just because they don't make shots. They're not a great offensive team. Same with West Virginia. They're not a great offensive team. They're gonna have games like the Kansas game where they struggle to score, and so they're gonna lose some games because of that. And then Oklahoma and Kansas, both teams I think we've seen have games where they've decided to guard and they can guard. It's going to be which one of those 4 teams can kind of fix their deficiencies the best. And with Kansas, it's, whether or not they're going to guard. Can they consistently guard? Because Oklahoma's the same way. Like, that game against K-State the other night, Oklahoma's defense was trash. Like, they a lot of times they're indifferent to defense. And they were like that kind of a couple of years ago with the Buddy Hield year, and that's one reason they weren't super, that's one reason they fell off, I think, a little bit in the league. And same deal with this team. Now, this team probably is built a little bit better to defend, but they've got to buy into that. And same with Kansas. And so it was encouraging on Monday night, but hey, let's see what they do here in like the next 3, 4, 5 games, because like I said, West Virginia does have some limitations offensively, and they kind of always have. So I think KU, whether or not they keep this streak going, a lot of it's going to come down to the defense, because their offense, while they're going to have games where they're off because they're still relying on shooting, they're going to be a pretty good top-tier offensive team in the league for the season.
This kind of leads into this question by Hey Jay, which is, do you expect 2 bigs in the lineup in February? And you speak to KU's defense and maybe how it's been a little bit subpar compared to past years. How much could that help KU's defense if they're able to get a second big on the court and help with the team's defensive rebounding?
I think it helps. I still don't think – I think they go small a majority of the time. I don't think that changes. I think you maybe see up to like 10 minutes a game maybe, where they go big. What do you think, Jesse? I still think – at this point I'm thinking it's really hard for me to believe Billy Preston's ever going to play. The longer it goes, the harder it gets to believe. And, even if they get a good Silvio, like I still feel like they're just going to go small a majority of the time because they want to have those guards on the floor as much as possible.
Yeah, I think it all relies on Billy Preston, and that'll be the next question here. But before we get to that, I just think that, Silvio's going to be limited. He doesn't know all the play calls. He's still learning. He's probably picked things up maybe quicker than Bill Self would have anticipated coming in. But even then, if you have those 3 big guys, I can't imagine you're playing more than 5 or 10 minutes a game with 2 bigs. That would even that would require you to get to, what would that be, 50 minutes combined for those 3 guys. And right now that's kind of a stretch to get to that number, even with Udoka playing basically every available minute that he can play. He can get 30. Okay, then maybe Mitch Lightfoot gets 12-ish, and then Silvio gets 10-ish, and then so that would get you to 10 minutes a game?
I see if anybody's minutes are going to go up, like I don't see Silvio and Udoka playing together a lot, if at all. I do see Mitch playing with those two some, like getting him some minutes at the 4. So a lot of it might come down to how well Mitch Lightfoot's playing. Like, is he playing so well? We want to get him on the floor more at the 4 because really, like, situationally, to get him his minutes at the 5 now, it's probably got to be like the right kind of opponent. So, yeah, maybe he gets some more minutes at the 4 just to get him, like, in an ideal scenario for him. And that steals some minutes away from small ball.
Yeah, well, and Bill Self said today at his press conference, I know you weren't here, CJ, but he talked about Mitch helping out Silvio, and he was kind of talking about the unselfishness of that, basically saying, hey, Mitch is helping Silvio despite the fact that, it might cost him some minutes in the future. And so that would lead me to believe that Bill Self, yeah, you want to get Mitch maybe to his natural position of the 4, but Bill Self, in the grand scheme of things, might want to play Silvio and Udoka together some and see what that two-big lineup looks like. But, I thought a great article. I'm going to plug The Athletic here, CJ, since you are a working member for them too. A great article by Ken Pomeroy earlier this week, basically talking about the teams that are bad defensively and kind of talking about overall coaching and how it is to get to your team's best ceiling and how you do that. It is not all just rainbows and unicorns for KU when they get these big guys eligible and deciding, hey, play 2 bigs, that's going to make everything better. What it likely is it's going to make your defensive rebounding better, but it's going to make your offense slightly worse because you don't have as many shooters on the floor, and Silvio's not going to know what he's doing as much, and they haven't practiced that all season. It's not their identity right now. So it's going to be up to Bill Self and coaching staff to kind of figure out what the net positive is, or if it's a net positive to play these 2 bigs together, or again, if you go with the girl that brought you, because right now the girl that's brought KU to a 5-1 Big 12 record, and the success it's had so far has been a 4-guard lineup, and that might provide some limitations, but it's also provided some pretty good successes too. So I think that kind of interplay will be something to watch moving forward, just to see how far Bill Self goes with this and how much he wants to adjust away from what's been successful for KU so far, even if it's been a little bit more one-dimensional than what the Jayhawks have done in the past.
For sure.
All right, let's get to that question. Michael F. Marshall says, what could possibly be the NCAA problem with Billy Preston? I will say that Bill Self, on his ESPN interview with ESPN's Jeff Goodman, I think he said the words hopefully optimistic with Billy Preston in that interview yesterday, and then he also said that it's a complicated issue. So I think that's all I can come up with right now. My 2 trains of thought basically are this. For one, he's already sat out whatever it is, 17 or 18 games. So that's a pretty significant suspension. So the fact that he's still out, let's say the NCAA thought they had something, or they thought that KU had found something on him, but it only merited 15-game suspension, he would be playing by now. The NCAA would say, well, he had this, he's going to pay this amount of money back, but he's allowed to play now. That hasn't happened. So that to me says we're talking about something more serious than that. And then the fact that Bill Self says it's complicated could mean that it could be more of an issue than just a car. Maybe there's other details involved with it. I'm not sure, but I think the only known in this is that it is maybe deeper than what we first believed it was and more complicated than what most fans believe it is. And the fact that he still is being held out and that this is something that is holding him out that potentially could now be a season-long suspension lets me know that maybe it's more than we can behold right now that the NCAA is trying to sort out.
Yeah, I just hope for Billy Preston's sake that he's able to play at some point, whether it is the end of this year or next year. Because if it gets to a point where the NCAA says, okay, he ruined his eligibility or his amateur status, like you can never play him, it's going to be a shame for the kid. Because, maybe he did something that he did this to himself, or who knows, maybe his family did, who knows. But he would benefit from playing college basketball, because at this point, if he has to come out and declare for the draft this year without ever having played a minute of college basketball, Jesse, from the conversations I had with scouts, like there's a decent chance he goes undrafted. He could maybe go in the second round, but there's a decent chance he goes undrafted. So it's just, and he's not going to be even close to prepared. So it's just, for the kid's life, like it's just really, really sucks. And you hope at some point he's able to play, just because I think he needs it. I think he needs college basketball. It's not the path for everybody. I guess he could go to the D League or the G League and get, come up that way. And you hope whatever happens for him, the right thing happens for him down the road, that he's able to kind of live out his basketball dreams. Because right now it's a really, really tough spot for him, because even if he has to come in late this year and play, that's going to be a tough spot. And if he never gets to play, it's going to be a tough spot for the kid, because he's not like a no-brainer NBA prospect at this point. Like, he is a prospect, but scouts need to see something, right? So that's kind of my take on that. It's just kind of sad at this point.
Well, and it's difficult. I mean, it's difficult without knowing the facts to kind of come down one way or the other, because I know fans are frustrated. I know, throughout all this, it's like the NCAA is becoming the enemy and Billy Preston's becoming the victim. But without knowing exactly what happened, it's a difficult stance to take. You know what I mean? Because
true, yeah.
At some point, because this has dragged on so long, it seems like something. Now, listen, we can argue all day, and I will argue all day that the system's messed up, it's broken, all these sorts of things. I mean, Billy Preston. He still could have done something that at the end of the day we're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You never know. You don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows. I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, it could be something really bad, and the NCAA obviously and KU profits off of Billy Preston more than Billy Preston profits off of going 1 year to college. And so, if something did happen, that sometimes is what happens in this I would say this industry, even though they quote it's not industry. You know what I mean? But at this point, we just don't know. And again, could it be a relationship that he had prior to that? Is that something that KU's trying to prove? Is it somebody who is an agent but he knew before? Is it something complicated? I don't know. I don't know at this point. But the bottom line is, without knowing what I don't know, it's really difficult to come down and have sympathy for him or to not have sympathy for him, because I don't know what the NCAA is looking at or what KU has looked at in this instance. And obviously, when KU is sending its case to the NCAA, when KU Athletics is, not the compliance department, but KU Athletics is sending it in, they're going to do whatever they can to try to benefit him and try to get him cleared to play, because it would benefit the university if he plays basketball, and it benefits the kid if he plays basketball. So again, it's a difficult spot to be in. I don't really know much more to say on it than that, but without knowing all the details, it's hard to come up with, to me, in my mind, a victim or an enemy or a protagonist or an antagonist. It's just, I think it's just one of those situations that continues to loom, and it really doesn't do anybody any good right now. The NCAA is getting a bunch of flack. KU is getting a bunch of flack. Billy Preston's not playing. It's kind of an unfortunate mess that is maybe more of a result of the system rather than it is, the player or the situation, whatever the case might be. Let's get to the last question from Dan Fagan. He said, what defensive changes have led to the stretches of good defense? What changes still need to be made? So, CJ, can you just point out what you saw in the second half against West Virginia that KU did well?
I mean, I think we've really hit on it mostly. I think they're doing a better job. One thing we haven't said, they're doing a better job of keeping the ball in front of them. And then Udoka's rim protection has been huge. And, I just think it's effort and energy. And you saw better effort, a better sustained effort and energy and activity from them over the course of that game, because they had to. Like, they just weren't going to outscore them because they were really struggling to score. So I think they just have to find a way to sustain the energy. And it now helps that they've got another couple bodies to throw in the rotation. And hopefully, I still think the minutes for C and for Devontae are going to be really, really high. But maybe you're going to get to the point where you can steal some minutes from them, and that'll help with their energy. But really, I just think a lot of times it comes down to energy and effort. And that's mostly what I saw, and a better version of Udoka.
Yeah, KU switching almost everything. I think they're getting better at communicating that. You saw some cuts and things that were being better defending the lane. And then I was shocked at West Virginia. If you watch KU closely defensively, almost every Big 12 team has made them run around ball screens and made Devontae basically run wind sprints up top just to tire him out at the end of the game. And West Virginia didn't do that. I mean, it was pretty stagnant offensively. Not much
That's
body
what they
or
do,
ball
though,
movement.
Sometimes it's just. Yeah.
I mean, but they
That's
did
their
make
problem.
Devontae work. That seemed like Devontae like a vacation for him. He played 40 minutes, but it felt like less than other games because Texas Tech made him run around all the time, and K-State made him run around all the time. You saw a fresh Devontae and a fresh V at the end of that game because they scored 20 of the last 22 points. I mean, you could see those guys were playing well down the stretch, so it was pretty amazing. But I think exactly what you said. It was the first game in Big 12 play that KU had played better defense in the second half than in the first half. That came down to energy and effort, and that's because I don't think West Virginia worked KU as hard in that second half definitely not as much as it did in the first half. I wanted to give a shout-out quickly to Jayhawker and to Wakarusa-Willie, who both went online and heeded our call and went to iTunes and gave reviews. I thought Wakarusa-Willie's was funny. He said, Jesse and CJ probably ought to be rated at 4 stars with 1 demerit for infrequency. So point well taken, Wakarusa-Willie. But we do appreciate the feedback on there. And, I like seeing people comment on the KU podcast and not just talk about the A-team and Therese all the time. So please do that if you haven't yet. Go on iTunes and rate and review the podcast. It helps out our rating. With that, I think we're going to get out of here. CJ, any last comments and anything to look forward to with KU coming up this next week?
No, it's just crazy where we are from where we've been. So it's going to be. I think there's going to be some peaks and valleys the rest of the way. Don't expect it to just be sunshine and rainbows from here going forward. It's going to be a long grind for this Big 12 season, but they're in a really, really good spot.
Yeah, it's crazy how the narrative changes so quickly in this KU basketball season when it comes to not only this team, but its chances with the streak. That's something that always seems to be the main discussion point this time of year. For CJ, this is Jesse. We're going to sign off for the Sports Beat KC podcast. Be sure to tune in for another episode next week.
SeatGeek is the easiest way to find the best deals on tickets to pretty much any live event. Concerts, sports, theater, comedy, whatever you want. Download the SeatGeek app today and enter promo code SEATS to save $20 on your first purchase.